everyone, welcome to 15 Minutes. I'm Andrew Huff. My guest today is the Chief Criminal Judge for King County Superior Court, the Honorable Dean Lum. Your Honor, thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
You were appointed to the Superior Court bench by former Governor Gary Locke. That's something that must have been quite an honor for you.
It was an incredible honor. I had known Governor Locke for quite a period of time. Growing up on the south end of Seattle, we both went to Franklin High School. He was a couple years ahead of me, but I'd known him for a long time in the community and followed his career first as a deputy prosecutor, then to the exec's office, and then to the governor's mansion, of course. But it was quite an honor to be appointed to the bench by him.
Yeah, very well respected. I've known Gary for a number of years as well. You, as you mentioned, went to Franklin High School, decided to pursue your academic career at Pomona College, a small liberal arts college in California. Why Pomona College?
Well, it was a situation where I really wanted to expand my horizons a little bit. I love Seattle. I knew I always wanted to come back to Seattle, but I wanted to try living somewhere else and wanted to go away to school. I wanted to at least experience something new. And of course, Pomona College is an excellent college with a great reputation. It's down in Southern California. And so decided to go there for 4 years, and it was a tremendous experience. I have to say, though, that being a Seattle native or somebody who'd been to Seattle for years and years, I always wanted to get back and was able to accomplish that by getting into the University of Washington Law School.
Now, you mentioned Governor Locke being a great influence in your life, and certainly he's been a great influence to many, many people. Is there someone, what influenced you particularly that you decided you want to go to law school and become an attorney?
Well, there were multiple influences, of course, and like most people, I had multiple influences. But two of the biggest influences, other than, of course, my parents, were several inspirational teachers at Franklin High School. I can name them. One is Rick Nagel, who went to law school for a few years, decided he'd rather be a teacher than a lawyer. He ended up teaching contemporary law and society, and he also was kind of the originator of the mock trial, YMCA mock trial program. And he was one of the early adopters, if you can call it that, of the mock trial program. And really, he and now Judge Bill Downing had a lot to do with what is now a really successful statewide and frankly national program. So he was a really inspirational teacher. I had a number of other inspirational teachers, but Elaine Wetterauer, Phil Blix, anybody who went to Franklin High School will know those names. Also Chuck Chin was my band director, who ended up becoming the principal of Ballard and Roosevelt High School. But these were really inspirational teachers.
Isn't that wonderful to have those inspirational teachers in high school? I'm sensing you were probably not a real wild kid in high school. I'm picking that up. I imagine you were probably highly intellectual. Am I wrong?
I don't know about intellectual, but it was one of those things where we studied really hard, but we also had some fun. I was in the Franklin High School Jazz Lab band from 1974 to 1976.
What'd you play?
I was a valve trombone player.
Okay.
And so, of course, we had some really kind of famous folks that came out of that. Kenny Gorlick was our lead alto saxophone player. He's Kenny G now, and my good friend Robert Damper is still with Kenny G, and a number of other really accomplished musicians. I was just along for the ride. I was just a competent player, but we had some great folks that with the Franklin Jazz Lab, and we had a lot of fun.
You still play now on occasion?
No, I don't.
Gave that up?
Gave that up. I wasn't that good. I was just competent, but I got to meet a lot of great people.
After law school, I think you became a deputy prosecuting attorney with King County.
That's right.
And why did you decide to become a prosecuting attorney?
Well, a couple reasons, but foremost, I wanted to get some trial experience.
Sure.
And really, the only people who really get substantial trial experience these days are either deputy prosecutors or public defenders. And I applied to both a couple of the public defender agencies at the time and the prosecutor's office, and it got a bunch of acceptances. And so I decided the prosecutor's office at the juvenile division was a great place to start, and so I started there in 1982.
Well, as you said, that's the best way to get trial experience. They usually just give you a load of files and say, there's a courtroom.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah. After that, I think you moved to the private sector for a time and did some civil work, some civil litigation as well, further developed your civil experience or your litigation experience. How was that experience for you?
It was a huge transition. I'm really glad that I was able to get that experience. But of course, it's very rare to get into court these days as a civil litigator. But I was able to really improve my legal writing ability. I was able to work on negotiation skills and having clients. All those different dynamics that I was able to appreciate then. And then, of course, it's very valuable to be able to have both perspectives as a Superior Court judge. I'm able to understand why attorneys are doing certain things. It may not be readily apparent, but the undercurrent, I think I understand just because I've actually done their jobs.
What point in your life did you realize that you want to be on the bench? Was there a certain point, or how did that come about?
Well, I have to say that I wasn't one of those kind of people who,
always trying to angle for a position on the bench.
I wasn't one of those kind of people. It didn't even occur to me that I could be a judge. So when I became a deputy prosecutor, I got a ton of trial experience, and so of course, as a judge, you have to apply the rules of evidence, and you actually have to know what's going on in cases. And so I was able to gain that experience. And so gradually over the years, people would suggest, well, maybe you might want to consider this path. And the best way to consider it, of course, is actually to do it. So as a pro tem judge or a fill-in judge, when a judge is out of the country or ill or something like that, the county and the city need fill-in judges. So I was able to pro tem and was able to found out I enjoyed the job.
Decided you kind of liked it.
Yeah, it was okay. So it kind of took a kind of an organic course, but I wasn't one of those people who said, I got to be a judge one of these days or anything else like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference between, you're the chief criminal judge right now for King County. Do you have a preference between presiding over a civil trial or a criminal trial? What's more interesting to you?
Well, I hate to give you a non-answer, but essentially what I enjoy is the variety that a Superior Court judge, the variety of cases that a Superior Court judge is able to hear. And in this age of increasing specialization for practitioners, it's kind of a nice thing to be able to, one month, for example, hear a civil case, another month hear family law cases, other times juvenile cases, other times criminal cases. So I have a pretty varied background in terms of my practice, so I enjoy drawing on those different parts of my background. So it's kind of a non-answer, but what I enjoy is a variety, and for this term, for next 2 years, I'll be the chief criminal judge, and I'm going to work real hard on that responsibility, and then it'll be time to move on to another responsibility.
Now, being the chief criminal judge, I would imagine that means a bigger office, bigger staff as well. Is that right?
No.
Just more responsibility.
Absolutely. There's no better office. It's just the same office everybody has. And
a friend of mine who serves on the bench said the biggest challenge they're facing right now is just simply lack of funding. Or decreased funding. Cutbacks are coming. Is that probably the biggest challenge that you face as a judge at the court?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's really hard to believe that we would be having funding challenges. If you take a look around Seattle, you see lots of cranes, a lot of construction. You read about it. It's obvious that the economy here is doing real well. We have certain corporations that are doing extremely well. The housing prices are going up, and presumably one would think perhaps that tax revenues are going up. But there appears to be a bunch of systemic and kind of systems problems with the way criminal justice is funded in King County. And others are much more expert in this than I am.
What do you think some of the problems are?
Well, it's a complicated answer, but it's the way the structure of the taxes come into what we call CX, or the general fund.
Yeah.
That's the basic problems. We also have, basically the tax base for county used to be drawn portions of unincorporated King County. Well, a lot of those portions of the county are now become certain municipalities, which changes the tax base. It's a really complicated answer, but the reality is that the tax base is shrinking, and it's kind of a systems problem. It's not one of general whether or not people are doing well generally. It's limited to the structure.
Right. So are you or your colleagues, are you going down in Olympia and testifying and informing lawmakers that we need a better funding system for the court system?
Yeah, that process has certainly started. I know that the county budget director, Dwight Dively, and the King County executive and the council are fully aware and are working on that, but I suspect we'll be down in Olympia talking about it further.
Let me ask you about an issue that's near and dear to your heart, and that's adoption. You were adopted. You were born in China,
right?
Adopted by American parents. At what age were you adopted, moved to the United States?
Well, it was in Hong Kong, and at the time it was a British Crown colony. It's 1958, and I was in an orphanage, and I was brought to this country at age 9 months. Brought to Seattle by some great Chinese-American parents. They're still alive, and brought to Beacon Hill area, Seattle, and adopted. So I'm not, I like to tell people I'm not quite born in Seattle. I'm not quite a Seattle native, but I'm as close to a Seattle native as possible, being here since 1958. So 9 months old.
You've chaired the National Adoption Day celebration here in King County in Washington State for a number of years, something that you're still active in?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, I think we're going on 13 years now, and what we try to do is publicize the plight of children who are legally free for adoption, foster kids who are legally free for adoption, and are available for adoption, and need permanent homes. And of course, not everybody's appropriate for adoption. Not everybody's appropriate to be an adoptive parent, but we have so many kids who are available for adoption, and we'd just like to tell everybody about our situation.
Are there enough parents out there, enough families that are looking to adopt, but they are unable to because of the process? Or what are some of the challenges that for a parent that want to adopt a child?
Well, there, of course, are lots of challenges, financial challenges. There are, just by sheer numbers, we have, unfortunately, lots of kids who are available for adoption, and perhaps not everybody's able to step forward. Sometimes people just don't know. They haven't considered it. But, we like to publicize the availability. We like to make available resources. There are a number of community resources that can provide information to people. And so by having a National Adoption Day, by having a celebration, we're better able to get the word out.
Real quick, only about a minute left or so, but you have two sons. You were just telling me one is graduating from high school, one is graduating from the University of Washington. I would imagine you're a pretty proud father right now.
Absolutely. We have multiple graduation ceremonies coming up really quick here.
The Honorable Judge Dean Lum, Your Honor, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us, everyone. We hope you'll join us again for another 15 minutes. We'll see you soon.